Craig Counsell and his impact on this Chicago Cubs team, plus a hilarious interaction between Scott Boras and Jed Hoyer. Next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Sam Olber. Please support the show by following on your preferred audio platform, and you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are lifelong fans taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Matt is out with a virus. He will be back for Monday's show. He is battling a bad virus. I talked to him a bit today, and he's still helping me out behind the scenes with the show. So I'm grateful for that, and he will be back on Monday. Hopefully, he's feeling strong by then. Good show, though, for you today. A lot to talk about, some teaser things. And the first thing I wanted to talk about with you guys today is Craig Counsell. And yes, this isn't a new topic. This isn't something we haven't discussed. But I really want to get a little bit in depth with Counsell, because I think what happened was in the offseason, we were surprised positively with this Craig Counsell news. And then all the focus shifted to what are they going to do next? Shohei Ohtani, could they trade for Juan Soto, Yamamoto, and all these different things. And I think it got a little bit lost in the shuffle just how big an acquisition Craig Counsell was. Okay. This is somebody who was not only one of the best managers in baseball, but he was one of the best managers in baseball directly north from you, against your division rival. He is somebody that we, Matt and myself, have admired from afar for a very long time. I can't tell you since about 2018, and this isn't a knock on David Ross, even though technically it kind of is, but it's like knocking Charles Barkley for not beating Michael Jordan in the 93 finals. I'm not knocking Barkley, I'm praising Jordan. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you how many times since 2018 I would watch a Cubs Brewers game and say either to myself or out loud, man, I wish that guy was our manager. I mean, he just gets it. I mean, there was a sequence last year. I think it was the July 3rd game where they had just called up some kid the day of the game that he pinch hit with somebody, burned him, and then brought in this kid for a matchup, and he was the one that had the double to center field. I can't recall his name. Just little things like that over the course of a season that add up to so many wins. And when you pair that up with what we had last year, which was an 83-win baseball team that had a Pythagorean record, which means a projected record or a underlying numbers record of 89 wins, 88 some places, and some places even 90. And so it was a team that, based on the production that they got, actually underachieved quite a bit. And then you replace that with a guy that is as good as anybody in the game at maxing out what he gets. It's a trade-off. It is still, bringing Bellinger back was great. Signing Imanaga was great. Michael Busch, I like the way he looks in the box early on. He looks like that deal, Busch for Almonte. We'll see. That has a lot of aging to do. Trading the core guys we talked about was great. Signing Dansby Swanson was great. To me, none of those moves compare to getting Craig Counsell in this clubhouse. Now, That doesn't mean that Craig Counsell is some sort of magician and this team's just magically going to win because he's there. If guys don't produce, he's not going to produce for them. Baseball, managing in baseball, it's not like football, right? It's not like you're calling the plays and you have your own schemes and things like that. You need production. Where Counsell's going to be special and where he's going to be such a difference maker for this team is assuming that good production's there, he's going to help you on the margins. And we haven't talked about it. Every show last year we used the word margins, margins, margins. And a lot of people might be wondering, man, you guys haven't talked about the margins a lot this offseason. You want to know why? Because the margins have been solved. Craig Counsell is the margins. You know what I mean? He's the guy that's going to clean that up. I really don't believe the Cubs are going to lose a ton of 3-2 games that they're leading 2-0 all the way through, or blow 7-run leads and things of that nature. He's going to clean that stuff up. And I felt like last season, if the Cubs were just average on the margins, they would have made the postseason. And with Craig Counsell, so far during his tenure, he has been excellent on the margins every year. And look, to every single point we make on this show, there's always a great counter. That's what makes sports great. There's no right or wrong answers until the ball's rolled out on the field. You can make a counter and say, well, maybe that was a Brewers organizational thing. And maybe that wasn't as much Counsell. We're going to find out this year. All very fair points. But I tend to side with Jed. And Jed gave him a 5-year, $40 million deal. And I think that says that Jed believes that a large part of the Brewers' margin success was because of Craig Counsell. And I think he's going to get the best out of this team. I love his demeanor so far. It's kind of like it's this like mix of business, but also just kind of just learning. Like you could tell he's really learning the players. He's getting to know these guys. And I just think come March 28th, it's going to be fun to watch him manage. And he's just one of those guys that I'm just really happy he's on our side. And we've competed against him for quite a while and have come up short against him for quite a while. And it is really nice that Craig Counsell is the manager of our team now. That isn't to say I'm sure I'm going to come on here dozens of times and question moves in hindsight, because that's what fans and podcasters and media members do. It's very easy when something doesn't work to come out and say, why did you do that? I try not to be like that. I try not to be lazy. And, if you follow me on Twitter during these ball games, I try and kind of manage along with the game and say, hey, before this at bat goes, I just want to say I really like pinch hitting with wisdom here, no matter what happens, or something like that. But, I'm sure he's going to make mistakes and have things questioned. But I just think, the Cubs, and I know there's the conspiracy theories of, hey, they just got that so they can cut corners cheaply and whatnot. And all that stuff's fair. But I'm really happy Craig Counsell's the manager of the Cubs, and listening to him speak and watching him so far lead this team is really, really fun. And, to me, certain teams, the manager's less important, right? Like Dave Roberts and the Dodgers, their manager's not that important. He's going to read off his game script, his analytical script, and make his moves from there. He knows what his top 3 of the order is going to be the whole season. He's got stars, and his job is kind of like, more of a personality thing. Like Phil Jackson, for example. Like when Phil Jackson came in with the Bulls, he introduced a triangle offense. He had to get Michael Jordan to pass more and play more within the offense. And then once that was solved, it was really just about managing the personalities and things. Counsell has real work to do here. There are so many questions. There's so many different combinations of players to play. There's so many tough decisions between minor leagues and the big leagues, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here. And this is a job that really takes somebody that is locked in on a day-to-day basis. Who's going to win that 5th starter job? Who's going to come out of the bullpen? When are they going to come out of the bullpen? It isn't like, how he's had it in Milwaukee in the past, where it's been a set 7, 8, 9, so-and-so to Williams to Hader. He's going to have to really work and figure out what he wants to do. And it starts in spring, right? We talked about that with Ross. I didn't think Ross did a great job last year. We came out of spring and it was Fulmer and Boxberger and Keegan Thompson, and all three of those guys weren't in high leverage spots by midway through the year. Counsell's got a job to do out of spring training to make sure he gets that right. There's a lot that goes into this. This is not an easy team to manage. And that's why I'm really happy that Craig Counsell is in charge. Coming up next, we are going to talk about a funny interaction at the presser for Cody Bellinger that happened on Wednesday afternoon. And we're going to go over some spring training news and notes. But first, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take away the guesswork of buying tickets with Game Time, and the Game Time guarantees means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are back here on Locked On Cubs. I want to close off one thing I forgot to mention in the previous segment with Counsell. I was asked how many wins Craig Counsell is worth, and I thought that was a really good question. And I think the better question is how many wins is he worth compared to what David Ross was? And I think the answer is about 5, maybe even 6. What I'm saying is if the Cubs got the same exact production that they got last season and you just flip Counsell in for Ross, I think you're talking about an 88 to 89 win ball club. That's just my personal opinion. Switching gears, on Wednesday, Cody Bellinger had his introductory or reintroductory press conference as a member of the Cubs. Nothing big in terms of what he said. He said he wanted to be a Cub the whole time and he's glad to be back. All the right things were mentioned. I thought there was a really funny moment with, first of all, I was surprised that Scott Boras was sitting there. That's not normal for the agent to sit in during a post-press conference. To me, that screams out leverage. Scott Boras is trying to get Montgomery signed, Snell signed, Chapman signed, Martinez signed, and I think he's trying to show teams like, hey, I'm here, I'm in this, answering questions. But there was a really funny moment where I think Scott Boras was asked about his other clients and when they're going to sign and if they're going to sign. And he leaned over the podium and he, half kidding, I'm sure, but half not, looked right at Jed saying like, well, Jed, you want to make another move? And I thought that was kind of interesting because, this is a tough business and you have to put personal things aside. I'm sure Jed Hoyer is not a huge Scott Boras fan, but I'm sure, and who knows if Scott Boras is a huge Jed Hoyer fan. But one thing is they got the job done and they got a mutual deal that both parties were happy with that was fair for both sides. And now all of a sudden it looks like Jed is in Scott Boras's good graces, and they were joking around. Now, the big question, of course, that we've talked about, and I'm tired of talking about it because I feel like I'm back in macroeconomics in high school is, are the Cubs going to go over that first CBT threshold? Because they can't sign Montgomery, they can't sign Chapman, and they can't even sign Martinez unless they do that. But I just kind of thought that it was interesting. And I thought Bleacher Nation, who I think does a tremendous job. We talk about them on the show a lot because I read a lot of their stuff. They phrased it really well. I forget if it was Brett or Michael who was writing it. But they said kind of like, I was about 95% sure, and I'm paraphrasing here, 95% sure the Cubs weren't going to sign any more big players. And after seeing that press conference, I kind of bumped down to like 85. And I kind of felt the same way. Like I still don't see it happening because they would really have to go over that tax threshold. But it was just kind of interesting. And Jed had a little grin and I just thought it was something to take away from. Comment below if you think the Cubs are done or not. And if not, is there anybody that you think really puts them over the top? And we're going to tease this in a little while, but is it Montgomery? Is it Chapman? I personally believe Jordan Montgomery would put the Cubs into a different tier, not just maybe the slight favorites in the NL Central, but the unanimous ones and the obvious ones. So that's kind of what I took away from that. As far as the rest of today went, Cubs had a spring training game today. Jordan Wicks threw well, 2 innings. He did give up, I think, 4 hits, but he didn't give up any runs, or maybe it was 3 innings. Let me fact check that for 1 second. I had it right in front of me, but it was 3 innings, 4 hits for Jordan Wicks, which is a little high, but no walks, no runs, so all was well there. To me, he seems to be the leader in the clubhouse for that 5th starter job, so it's nice to see him throw well. And I thought it was interesting. Owen Casey had a nice day today. Canario had a nice day. Shaw was up there. PCA was up there. And, my guess is Shaw will probably end up going to minor league camp pretty soon. Same with Casey. I wonder, out of that group of people, out of that group of young players, Casey, Shaw, PCA, Canario, who's the guy that's going to have the biggest impact in 2024 with the Cubs? I mean, I think the easy answer is probably PCA, just because I think he has the easiest path to playing time consistently once he's ready. But Canario could make the club. I mean, it's not out of the question. Shaw would be a dark horse, but like I said yesterday, I just love that bat, and I could see him steamrolling through the minor leagues and coming up here in August or September and just being a huge X factor. Like, I could see that happening. I wonder, like, that group of guys, because those are kind of the guys that are really close to being ready, but maybe not quite yet. And I'm really interested to see, if who's going to be the guy, who's going to be the big contributor, because I think one of them will be. And that's that. Just looking at the rest of the box score from today. Nice to see Suzuki in there back-to-back days. Bush back-to-back days. Those guys were in. They each got a base hit. Suzuki did strike out twice. One of them was looking, and one of them was a bad call. I expect Mr. Counsell to be very, very aggressive early in the season on Suzuki strike zone. I'm telling you, it's something to watch for. I could easily see him, really pressing and maybe even getting thrown out of a game the first 10, 15 games of the season to protect Suzuki, because as we've talked about on this show a ton, it is so important, for him to get those calls, because he loves to take borderline pitches. So overall, good day for the Cubs. Nice to see Bellinger back. Counsell did say do not expect Bellinger in the lineup this week. They're going to ease him back in. He has plenty of time to get back in. My guess is his first at bat will come maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week in the spring. And, honestly, vibes are good. All is well in Cubs land. And it was a nice day. Coming up next, we're going to talk about doing something that we haven't done in quite a long time. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live, same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. I am getting ready, once I hit end to this episode, to watch the Illini as 11.5-point favorites at home against the Golden Gophers. Matt hasn't been on the show, so yes, I've been talking a lot about the Illini. I know people are going to comment, go Hawks, go Hawks. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. And Thursday evening, we are going to try and go live. I'm going to try and go live around 7 p.m. Central Time. And it's really going to be centered around mailbag, your questions, your comments. Tell me, what do you think the Cubs need? Do you think Jordan Montgomery is the guy? Do you think there's any move out there that puts the Cubs in a realistic position to not only be unanimous favorites in the division, but to win, a playoff series or two, or really be a threat? I'm of the belief that they are kind of in this tier where They're trying to make a move to solidify themselves as legit division favorites. There is not a move out there that I think puts them even close on the tier of the Dodgers and the Braves and maybe even Philadelphia, but we'll say the Dodgers and the Braves. But then you go back to the classic. If you establish yourself as clear division favorites, you never know what could happen once you get to October. See the Arizona Diamondbacks for last year. Comment what you think about the Bellinger deal. Ask me about that on the live. I mean, we have plenty of questions that I want to come, but I will make one rule. Please no David Bodie questions. Got a couple of those in the comments, and you know what I mean. I don't really know if he's long for this club outside of his salary. No disrespect to David Bodie, but he will not be starting at third base. But last time I said that about Morel, he started the next day, so you never know. But Thursday night we're gonna try and go live. I want to see everybody there. Let's do big numbers. Let's have fun conversations. Let's ask good questions, and let's start getting ourselves ready, because Friday is March 1st, which means it'll be the first month in a long time where the Chicago Cubs play a baseball game that matters. And there's nothing, and I mean nothing, better than that. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes and we'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube. Smash the like button, please. Like. And leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Sam Olber, and this is Locked On Cubs.